Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 3.3 sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the presentation. I'm going to make a few notes on the slides so you can understand a little bit better. I know I cannot be there with you, but maybe with this video you will have all the things you need to finish understanding the lesson. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to go real quick with the first slides because we saw them in class when I was still here. First, the differences between disease and infection. Well, I told you that a disease would be referring to the moment in which your body gets affected, okay? Your body will be showing symptoms of things that are not working properly. That's what we call a disease, that disorder or condition. The infection, on the other hand, will refer to the presence of a pathogen inside your body, okay? The pathogen, remember we mentioned that was referring to any kind of organism that can make you sick or that can make you develop a disease, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, before we start talking about sexually transmitted diseases, we have to understand that sexually transmitted diseases that are also known as STDs right here are going to be infectious diseases. What does that mean? All of them can be transmitted from one sick person to a healthy person. That's what we refer to when we mention that they are infectious. Being infectious means that it can be transmitted. The pathogen can be going from one sick person to another healthy person. And they are sexually transmitted because, well, they are going to be spread thanks to sexual activities, any kind of sexual activities. Okay? And just as a reminder, well, in the case of an infection, infections usually don't show symptoms, okay? Technically speaking, infections will not show any symptoms. Your body will not be affected. You only have the presence of the pathogen inside your body. And the disease, on the other hand, it will be when your body is actually not working properly, is affected by the infection, and well, symptoms will start to appear. All sexually transmitted diseases are caused by sexually transmitted infections. What does that mean? All the causes of the diseases come from a specific type of infection. Okay? And now let's talk about the different types of infections. There are different types of pathogens in the world, and we can find them causing many different diseases, not just sexually transmitted diseases, okay? But for this lesson, we will focus on three main pathogens or three main types of infections: parasitic, bacterial, and viral. Okay, we can also have fungal infections, okay, that are caused by fungi, different types of species and yeast and other microorganisms. But today, for this lesson, for our subject, we will just talk about these three. Okay, now I want you to pay attention a little bit to what parasitic infections, the details that parasitic infections are referring to. Okay, first thing is that we will remember parasitic infections are caused by parasites. You have seen in your environmental science class that parasites are basically tiny organisms that will be feeding from other organisms. Okay, they will be getting food, but they will be causing a damage on the host. Okay, for this lesson, I like to use the words tiny insects, okay, between quotation marks because they're not exactly insects, but let's call them like that. Now, the good thing, let's say good thing about parasitic infections is that they can be easily detected. What does that mean? It is very easy for us to know if there is a parasitic infection, if our body has a parasitic infection. Why? Because they will always produce symptoms right here, okay? They will always produce symptoms, and that's a very good thing. Sorry for the messy arrow right here, but well, you know what I mean. So they always produce symptoms, and the thing is that if you have some of these symptoms, it just takes a close look to your genital area to know if there's any parasites. These parasites, they're not microscopic, okay? We can see them with our own eyes. So if we take a closer look down there, we can actually realize if there's something wrong or something going on. And if we see something that is not normal, we can then go to a doctor. The doctor will tell us exactly what it is and can give us proper treatment. Okay, that's the last thing that you know about parasitic infections. They can be treated and cured. Okay, now I want to make a little emphasis on the word cured right here. When we say that something has been cured in the case of in the case of infections, we refer that the pathogen has been removed completely from the organism. Okay, in this case, if a parasitic infection is cured, that means that there are no more parasites living in our body. We have removed all of the parasites. And that's a good thing, okay? Because we will be free of them, we will be healthy again, and we won't get no infection unless we come in contact with another agent, okay? Two examples that we have are going to be scabies and pubic lice. Okay, and I want you to notice right here the name of this one, pubic lice. If you're not familiar with the word lice, right here, lice means piojo. Okay, and usually we know that piojos, they will be living in our head, they will be feeding on our dead cells, they will be causing itching, and they will be very, very annoying. Okay, in the case of pubic lice, they will behave exactly the same. The only difference is instead of being in your head, they're going to be down there, and that will be a little bit more uncomfortable. Okay, the good thing is, again, we can go to a doctor, we can get treatment, get rid of them, and we'll be perfectly fine. Okay, good. Now, second part or second type of infections or a second type of infection will be bacterial infections. Okay, bacterial infections are a little bit worse than parasitic. Okay, parasitic were the, let's say, menos peor. Okay, menos peor, least worst kind of infection. Bacterial infections, they're going to be a little bit worse than parasitic because they are hard to detect. Okay, you cannot detect them easily. In the case of parasitic infections, you can see the parasites and you know that you're infected. But remember that bacteria, they are microscopic. You cannot see them with your own eyes. In order for you to detect bacterial infections, you have to go to the doctor, get some samples taken, some tests. The doctor will be running some tests, and the doctor will be able to tell you if you have or not a bacterial infection. Okay, once the doctor knows if you have a bacterial infection and which type of bacteria you have in your body, then the doctor can give you proper treatment. Okay, that's a good thing about bacterial infections, that they can be cured with antibiotics. Okay, and just a little parenthesis right here, the word antibiotics refers to a specific type of medicine that is designed to kill bacteria. Okay, that's what we call that medicine, antibiotics. Okay, now it may seem like bacterial infections are not a big deal, but the problem is that besides them being hard to detect, sometimes they are going to be asymptomatic. Okay, this word right here, asymptomatic. What does that mean? That they don't show symptoms. You can have a bacterial infection and it will not show symptoms immediately, and it can take months or even years for the symptoms to appear, for the disease to develop. And in all those years, you're going to be infected without you knowing. Okay, the problem is that if you don't know that you're infected, you can be transmitting the infection to other people, and that's not a nice thing, because if the infection does not get treated properly and soon enough, then the infections can do very serious damage to your body, to different organs, and affect you in many different ways. Some of them can even cause death. Okay, some examples that we have here are going to be chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Okay, I'm not going to stop much with the diseases right now because we're going to talk about that later. Actually, you're going to be working with that while I'm gone. Okay, now let's talk about viral infections. Okay, now let's talk about viral infections then. I just realized that I'm here on the screen and I'm not sure if I'm blocking the slide. So I think if I turn this off, you will be able to see the whole slide and you're not seeing me anymore. I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep speaking and I hope you can read the information that I was blocking. Now, viral infections. Viral infections are going to be the worst of the worst. Okay, from these three types of infections, viral are the worst. You don't want to have a viral infection. Why are they so bad? Why do we hate them so much? Well, first of all, viruses are going to be very, very, how can I say, tricky to detect. Okay, they can be asymptomatic, just like bacteria. Okay, they will not be developing symptoms in short periods of time. They can take years, even decades, for the symptoms to appear, and that will make us spread the infections without knowing. Okay, if you don't know that you're infected, again, you can be transmitting it to other people, and that's not a nice thing. But the worst thing about viral infections is that once you get them, okay, you cannot get rid of them. Okay, viral infections is not like bacteria that you can kill with antibiotics. Okay, there's medicine that can be used to control virus inside of our body. Okay, but we cannot get rid of the virus completely. Sometimes with some diseases, The virus will just, let's say, calm down a little bit and will leave you alone. Your body will be working properly. There won't be any damage done your organs. Everything will be fine, but the virus will still be there and it can still be transmitted. Okay, so maybe you might think that you're healthy now, that you're free of the virus, but the truth is that you're not. Okay, now another bad thing about viral infections is that there's no actual or definite cure for the disease. Okay, medicine and treatment can be used to cure the symptoms so that your life can be better, so you can have a normal life, but the virus will still be there, and sooner or later it can mess up with your body again. So that's a bad thing about viral infections. Examples that we have about for viral infections are HIV. Okay, we know it as VIH in Spanish. We got herpes right here, and we got HPV, which stands for human papilloma virus, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. Well, remember, if you need to re-listen to something or re-watch something, you can just pause and go back. Okay, so I'm just gonna move on next. So going to the next slide, okay, we have common symptoms of sexually transmitted diseases. Now, each disease is going to be slightly different. Each disease will have different methods or mechanisms to affect our body. Different organs can be affected and they will be causing different bad things. But there are several symptoms that will be common in different types of diseases. They're going to be like general kind of symptoms, okay? Some of them include abnormal secretions, okay, right here, abnormal secretions. Now, just for you to know, when we talk about abnormal secretions, we are referring to fluids that are not natural in your body. Okay, you know that your body produces different kinds of fluids, especially related to your penis or your vagina. Fluids that come out of there are basically urine, semen, vaginal fluids, blood during menstruation, and other kinds of fluids. Okay, but if there's a fluid coming out of your penis or your vagina that is not any of those, it is considered an abnormal secretion. One example of abnormal secretion is going to be pus right here. Okay, pus like the one that you get in blisters or injuries that you get infected. That kind of substances will be coming out of your penis or vagina if you have an STD. Okay, so that's one, let's say, nasty symptom that you may have. Other symptoms are a little bit more physical, like for example, pain and itching in the genital area. Remember, itching refers to like comezón, okay, like scratching and having this sensation. Burning sensation in your genital area that can also happen during urination. Okay, you can feel pain or burning while you're urinating, and that's another symptom very common in different STDs. And the last one that we have here, appearance of bumps. Okay, we can have bumps or blisters or rashes appearing on your skin. Those kind of things that are not normal on your body may be appearing, and well, that's another symptom. Okay. Now, the bad thing about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, is that some symptoms may be confused by other types of infections. Like some symptoms can be related to different types of diseases that are not sexually transmitted, like, for example, having fever or shivering, night sweats, among other different things, being dizzy, whatever. Okay, those symptoms are also present in other diseases. So sometimes people will be having these symptoms, but they won't feel or they won't think it is related to a sexually transmitted disease. But these common symptoms that we're seeing right here, well, I think those are a little bit more, let's say, shocking, and they might make you think that you have a sexually transmitted disease. Okay, so just look how worried this guy is. Okay, sexually transmitted diseases are not a nice thing, of course. Now, how are sexually transmitted infections spread? How can you get infected? Obviously, we have mentioned that sexually transmitted infections will happen through sexual activities. Okay, they are transmitted sexually, and that's the very first one that we have here. Any kind of sexual activity will be increasing your risk of getting an infection, sexually transmitted infection. Okay, but there are other ways in which we can get infected. Okay, one of them is through the exchange of body fluids or bodily fluids. Okay, what does this mean? So, as I mentioned earlier, your body produces different types of substances, different types of fluids like semen, blood, saliva, vaginal fluids, breast milk, tears, mucus, among many others. okay? If there is an exchange of these fluids between one sick person and one healthy person, then the infection will happen and both of them are going to be sick, or both of them are going to be infected. Okay, and that's one thing that I want you to realize. Okay, infections, sexually transmitted infections or general infections do not happen like it's not like playing around, like, you know, el juego de la traes. O sea, no es como jugar a la traes. Like, if you touch someone, they will get the infection, and now you're clean, you're free of the infection. No, that's not how it works. Okay, if you are infected and you get someone else infected, you're both infected now. Okay, that's a bad thing about the infections in general. Okay, now you might be saying, teacher, how can we get infected? Like, how can our fluids be exchanged? Well, let me tell you something. Um, for example, one crazy scenario could be if you get into a fight. Okay, if you get into a fight and someone bites your arm, okay, whenever it gets beaten, my saliva would be in contact with your blood, and that will be an exchange of fluids. Okay, kissing, for example, whenever you kiss someone on the lips, of course, there will be an exchange of saliva, and if one of the persons involved in the kissing is sick or infected, then the other person might get infected as well. Okay, now another thing is from mother to child. Okay, it can happen during pregnancy if the woman was infected before being pregnant, before getting pregnant. Maybe she didn't know it, she got pregnant. Well, the bad thing is the baby is going to be affected by the infection. Okay, maybe the mother doesn't know that she's infected, but the baby is going to be affected because it can affect the development of the baby. Okay, like well, we will see examples later, but it can affect the development of the baby. It can cause death of the baby, among many other things. Or the baby can be born with a disease, okay? And that's not a nice thing. Infections from mother to child can also happen through breast milk, okay? While their mothers are breastfeeding their kids, that's also another way in which babies can be infected, okay? And the last one that we have here is referred to sharing needles or syringes. Just for you to know, it means like sharing agujas y jeringas. Okay, when will this happen? Drug use, piercings, tattoos, among other things. Other activities that are not related to sexual activities in any way. Okay, I know that you don't do drugs, or at least I expect you don't ever in your life. But usually some drugs will be requiring the use of syringes. Okay, and well, let's face it, sometimes they will be sharing the same syringe from one person to another. The problem is that syringes, when they come into your veins, they come in contact with your blood. Okay, so sharing the syringe with someone else will be causing an exchange of bodily fluids. Okay, and the same thing happens with piercings and tattoo shops. If you go to a very cheap, low profile piercing shop or tattoo shop, usually they're going to be saving some money by reusing their needles, and they think they can just clean them or wash them or disinfect them, but sometimes that's not enough. Or if they don't do it properly, from one person to another, they can transmit infections. Okay, let's say that I am infected with something. I go get a tattoo, okay, on my arm, on my leg, anywhere you want to. Okay, the needle is going to be piercing my skin and will be in contact with my blood. Okay, so after I'm gone from the shop, another client might come in and they will be reusing the same needle. Now that needle has may have microorganisms, may have the pathogens that cause my infection, and they will be piercing the skin of someone else, and they will be exchanging our bloods. They will be coming in contact, and that can cause an infection. And same thing happens with piercings. Okay, so if you ever gonna have a tattoo or a piercing, just make sure you go to a professional shop that is, let's say, properly established, and there's no sketchy things about them. Okay. Now, some people might be saying that wearing condoms will protect you from having infections, okay? And it is partially true. The thing is that condoms will help you a little bit, but they have to be worn properly. They have to be worn at all times, among other things. Besides, there are some infections that are not prevented by wearing condoms, okay? So keep that in mind. Also, having too many sexual partners during a lifetime might also increase your chances of getting an infection. How so? if you were to have sexual activities only with the person you married, and your wife or your husband does the same thing, that means that you're not infected. Any of you is infected, so you're safe to have sexual activities. But let's say that I am that during my lifetime, let's say that by the time I get married, I may have had, let's say, five different sexual partners. Okay, five sexual partners that they may have also had more sexual partners. So the chances of being infected, they increase. Okay, so it is important that we keep this in mind. The less sexual partners that we have, the lower the chances that we get infected with some sexual transmitted infection. Okay, just keep that in mind. Good. Again, if you have any questions, just pause it. Or if you have anything to review, just pause the video, okay, and go back and listen to the information. Or if you need to take notes, pause the video and take your notes, okay? Now, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so how many people get STIs? Okay, now this is an important thing. Let me just, I think I'm missing. Okay, there you go. How many people get sexually transmitted infections? Now, according to information from the World Health Organization, there are almost 1 million infections happening around the world each day. Okay, every single day, about 1 million people get infected with the sexually transmitted infection. Okay, that means that we have around 357 million new infections each year. But speaking about Mexico, each year we get around 220,000 reported infection cases. Okay, now important thing here is that we're talking about reported cases. That means that there could be even more cases that are not being reported, more cases of people not knowing they're infected, people not going to the doctor because of the infection. So we don't have the real numbers. But if you ask me, 220,000 people every year sounds like a lot. Okay, so we gotta be careful. Right here we have just a little diagram that, sorry, a little graph that will be showing you some of the diseases and how many people are going to be infected each year. And well, as you can see, the highest number that we will have is going to be here, 4.6 million people, and it's going to be because of HPV. We will be talking about the diseases later, but just keep that in mind. HPV is one of the diseases that will be one of the infections, sorry, that will be taking place more often during the year. Okay, and well, right here we're talking just about a group of people between 15 and 24 years. Okay, so there's obviously more people getting infected that are older than 24. Hopefully, not so many that are under 15, but infections take place. Okay, we have different diseases like HIV right here. We have herpes and, well, many other examples. Good. This is just for you to have some idea. You don't need to take notes on this one, okay? Don't worry. Now, important thing is, how can we prevent sexually transmitted infections? How can we be safe from this type of infections? Well, one thing that you need to know is that the only 100% effective way not to be infected is by not having sex. Okay, we mentioned that there are other ways in which you can get infected, but let's face it, those ways are easy to prevent. Okay, not using drugs, not getting tattoos, not getting piercings, or at least not getting them in a place that it's not a professional one, or it's not, let's say, clean one or whatever. Okay, um, so yeah, the most easiest way, or the sorry, the easiest way in which you can get an infection is through sexual activity. And well, if you don't have any sexual activities, then you will not be having the risk of an infection. Okay, and you might be thinking, teacher, sooner or later I will have to reproduce, or I will want to reproduce because maybe you want to have a baby sooner or later. Well, of course you can have sexual activities then, but again, you gotta be careful who you're having sexual activities with. Okay, it is very, very common now in our days that people find it so simple to have sexual activities with other people. Sexual encounters are so casual and people don't care about them as they used to before. Okay, in the past, people will be saving themselves for marriage. They would be waiting until marriage to have sexual activities with the person they married. Okay, because they trusted that person, because they loved that person. Okay, and that helped a lot to keep infections at a low level. Why? Because people will not be engaging with so many different people, and they wouldn't be transmitting infections so easily. Okay, if you're gonna have sexual activities, as I have mentioned before, I recommend you wait until you get married, and make sure that your partner is not infected with any of these things. Okay? Remember, any sexual contact carries with it the risk of an infection. Sorry, I'm going a little bit crooked right there, but don't forget that. Okay? Every single type of physical contact or sexual contact, to be more specific, can give you an infection. Okay, being abstinent will keep you safe. When we talk about the word abstinent, we refer to sexual abstinence, not engaging in sexual activities until you get married. Okay, and that is something that we should be proud about. Usually our culture, they celebrate when a person has more than one sexual encounters or more than one sexual partners during a lifetime, because apparently, especially to boys, that will give them some status of being better men or whatever. Okay, but you should not be ashamed of being abstinent. If you choose to not have sex until marriage, well, you should wear it proudly. Okay, and you shouldn't let anyone make you feel bad about it. Okay. Also, to prevent STIs, well, we gotta be faithful to our partners. That means not having any sexual encounters outside of our marriage and using condoms correctly. Okay. Now, I told you that condoms will not be protecting you entirely, not 100% protection. Okay, right here, you can read it. Not 100% protection, especially if you don't wear them properly. Now, you might be thinking, teacher, what's the science behind wearing condoms properly? Okay, but if you take a look at the package, it will give you several instructions or several details on how to keep your condoms safe so that they will help you uh, be protected from sexually transmitted infections and pregnancies. But we'll talk about pregnancies in the next lesson. Okay, and another thing that will help us be safe is going to be having periodic medical exams. What does that mean? Going to the doctor often. Okay, they recommend we go to the doctor every 6 months or every year to get general checkups to make sure that we are not having anything bad inside our body. As I mentioned before, some infections may take years to develop symptoms, to develop the disease. Okay, so if we go to the doctor periodically, if we go every year or every 6 months, there's a higher chance we can detect the infection soon and we can treat it and cure it. Okay, and it's not something common. People will not be going to the doctor just, let's say, for fun. People will be waiting to be very, very sick to go to a doctor. Okay, but your kids, you're learning, and now you know how important it could be to go to the doctor every now and then. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I included this image right here because I think it's something we should all remember and we should all put in practice. Okay, it says, why can people understand that love without sex exists too? Okay, and that is something very, very important. It is very common that people or teenagers think that if they don't have sexual activities, if they don't engage in sexual activities, it's because they don't love their partners. Okay, and girls, I don't want to be very sexist right here. I don't want to be like getting any ideas in your head, but it can happen in the future that some boyfriend or someone you trust may push you to have sexual activities. But again, if it is something you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. Okay? You can just go away, you can say no, just keep away from those kind of people. Okay? You can love someone without engaging in sexual activities. Okay? Love is not about sexual activities. Keep that in mind, okay? Forever and ever until you get married. Good. Now, let's go to the next slide. Okay, we're almost done with our lesson right here. Most common sexually transmitted diseases that we're going to be talking about during this lesson are basically 8, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, so we got genital herpes, chlamydia, gonorrhea, HIV, genital warts, syphilis, trichomoniasis, vaginal candidiasis. Okay, those are our 8 diseases, sexually transmitted diseases. There are other kinds of diseases, yes. These are the most common ones that we might be having around the world, that we might be having in Mexico. Okay, so on the following slides, we will have information for each one of them. I don't want to stop much here. You're going to be you're going to be working with Diana in the lab, making a poster with this information, and we will review it when I come back from the Big Bend trip. Okay, we will review it next week. But here you will find these little charts that will be showing you the name of the diseases right here on the left side of the chart. It will show you the pathogen, okay? It will show you the different virus or bacteria that will be causing the disease, and it will give you the description or symptoms for each of the diseases, okay? Some diseases will be having more symptoms than others. Some diseases will be having worse effects than others. Some diseases will be affecting males more than females, or the other way around. If you see, like for example, with chlamydia, that it says males and females, well, I think it's more than obvious that it's referring to symptoms that occur only with men or women. But if you don't see that, if it's just like a list of symptoms, it means that it affects both parties the same way. Okay, men and women are going to be affected the same way if it doesn't say anything specific. Okay, so I'm going to leave you here with the presentation. You can pause it, you can read it, you can get the information right here. We're going to review it when I come back next week, I promise. Okay, I'm going to click on the next slide. You have other 3 diseases right here. 1, 2, 3, no problemo. Okay, I'm going to give you a little information so you can pause it. I won't change it very fast. And let's go to the next one. And there you go. Okay, trichomoniasis, vaginal candidiasis. Okay, so that will be it for today, or at least for this video, for this lesson. We're going to review the diseases when I come back. You will be working with Diana on the lab. Don't forget your lab coat. And make sure you bring a cardboard, una cartulina, okay, so you can make a very cool activity thing. Bring markers, bring colors, and I think that's it, okay? If you have any questions, well, make sure you write them down on your notebook so you don't forget, and you will ask me when I come back. Okay, well, it was nice recording this for you guys. I hope you don't miss me that much, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Have a nice day. Bye bye.